Well, good morning. Thank you all for coming this morning. Appreciate the good. Well, I just don't like using the gavel. It's just the gavel is so hard and impersonal and cold. I'd rather just talk to folks and bring everybody's attention that way. I could do that. That work? That's better? That make you feel good? You prefer that, do you? You prefer that? All right, whatever. We're going to start with a flag salute. That'll get everybody's attention. Supervisor Duran, would you please lead us this morning? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. And if you will, please, the meeting procedures.
Welcome to the Placer County Board of Supervisors meeting of Tuesday, March 10th, 2015. Agendas are available on the wall outside this meeting room. If you are here to speak on an issue not appearing on the agenda, you may do so during the public comment period. There's a 3-minute time limit per speaker. The board is not permitted to take action on items addressed under public comment. When you speak, clearly state your name and address for the record. All items on the agenda will be open for the public to address before final action is taken. There's a 3-minute time limit per speaker, which will be monitored by a timer on the podium. If there is a person speaking on behalf of a group with no other testimony from another member of the group, please identify yourself as such, and your time may be extended at the pleasure of the board. Keep in mind that the chairman has discretion of limiting the total discussion time on any item. If you are hearing impaired, we have listening devices available. It is requested that all cell phones be turned off or put in the silent mode. Thank you for your participation and cooperation.
Thank you, Ann. All right, this is time for our consent agenda. Are there any items on consent any members of the board wish to have removed for discussion? And seeing none, any member of the public wish to have any item on consent removed for discussion? And those of you that weren't here at our last meeting, this might be new to you. This is actually a live broadcast of our, what is the name of the facility? What is the name of the facility? Customs House, thank you. The old Starbucks, let's just call it that, up in Tahoe City in an effort to open our board meetings up to our Eastern Slope residents. We've established a video connection, audio video connection with our Tahoe City facility so that our Tahoe residents who wish to participate in the board meeting and be heard by the board can do so. And so seeing nobody in the chair to address the board on any item on consent, I'm going to assume that there's nobody in Tahoe that wishes to have anything removed from consent, and so I'll entertain a motion. Second. We had a motion by, I'm sorry, was that Duran that made a motion? Duran, and second by Holmes. Roll call, please.
Duran. Yes. Wygant. Yes. Holmes. Yes. Montgomery. Yes. Euler.
Aye. Okay, this is the time for public comment when any member of the public can address the board on any item that is not on our agenda, knowing that the board cannot take action on an item raised under public comment. If you have an item to address, please go ahead and step forward, identify yourself, and please try to keep your comments to give or take 3 minutes, thereabouts.
Good morning, Chair Euler and Supervisors. My name is Julia Burrows. I'm the Director of the Governing Institute, and that address is 1100 Connecticut Avenue, Northwest Washington, D.C. I am here with some good news to share. March is Women's History Month, and you have a woman making history on your Board of Supervisors. Governing Institute has, right here, from Montgomery. Stop that, Chair Euler.
I thought Jim had an announcement for us.
No. The Governing Institute does research, decision support, and executive education across the country. So we have leadership forums and lots of education. We started a Women in Government program this year. We have 24 members, including 6 mayors, state legislators, and only 3 county supervisors from across the United States. Supervisor Montgomery is one of these 3 county supervisors. And she was chosen during a nomination process across the country. We had many, many submittals, and we had hand-picked choices also from the governing executive staff. The purpose of the program is leadership development and job training for those elected officials, and to have them go out and recruit other women to run for office in their respective offices. There are 500,000 elected offices in this country, and the number of women in those offices is declining from a high in 1993 of about 24% down to 20%. So we're on a mission with our young daughters, with college students, and with other women who wait to be invited to run and also don't think they're qualified. And I can tell you that your supervisor is a leader among leaders. She's very vocal. She represents Placer County and I'm a resident, so I'm very proud of that, among women leaders from across the country. And so I'm here to show you that she is in the March issue of Governing magazine as one of the women in government. So she has her own profile in this, which a reporter called and interviewed her. This is mailed to 85,000 city halls and state houses across the country. Every governor, every CIO in the country reads it. And we have 4 million page views a year at the governing.com website. So she's a celebrity, and I just wanted to make sure that I came to my own backyard and said congratulations to Supervisor Montgomery, and the other Californian is Mayor Pro Tem Angelique Ashby from Sacramento, and that's it from California. So congratulations, Supervisor. Thank you so much for participating in our program. Thank you for making that invitation to other women to run, and thank you for being such a role model for all of us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julia, for that.
Hello,
Hi.
my name is Renee Berg. I live in Auburn, and I spoke at the December 9th meeting where you voted to terminate the leases for those businesses affected by the Costco site plan. I pointed out that terminating the leases and demolishing the buildings were premature when the EIR had not even been started, and that those plans would possibly fall through. As everyone knows, Costco has subsequently pulled out of the option to ground lease, leaving no reason to demolish those buildings. My request is I'd like to add an item to the next agenda here to address lease extensions for the buildings impacted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Michael Coder. I live at 10701 Mount Vernon Road in Auburn, and my wife and I currently have a lease with Placer County to use the DeWitt Theater. Although I have been notified by Facility Services that our lease is terminated on June 30th, we request that the Board of Supervisors direct Facility Services to allow a 12-month lease extension, or until a disposition of the Costco project is determined, or designate the DeWitt Theater to be preserved as a historical site or museum under the direction of Ralph Gibson, Museum Administrator for Placer County. He is doing an excellent job of activating local historical sites for the public. The Costco project has caused a lot of collateral damage. 5 Auburn businesses, including Music and More Arts Academy, a preschool, church, bakery, athletic club, and senior center, and 2 county organizations, Meals on Wheels and Seniors First, are being required to move by June 30th at great financial, emotional, and organizational expense to each one. Meals on Wheels and Seniors First have been fragmented, where they used to have the ability to work in close proximity to each other in the senior center. The senior center learned yesterday that the moving deal fell through and it's nowhere to move by the deadline of June 30th. Yet Facility Services continues to press them to leave so they can board up and knock down the buildings to carry out the master plan. For what purpose? Where are our 700 senior voters to go? Over the past 12 months, under your supervision, Placer County has lost over $900,000 to Conkey to make the Costco deal, $530,000 from Costco to pay for the senior center transition. That's over $1 million of my and other Placer County residents' tax money. The demolition of the buildings in the Costco project footprint is going to cost thousands of dollars more of our money. This costly county study that you made of the DeWitt Theater by 3 outsourced companies determined that the building was sound and could remain functional with new restrooms and minor electrical fire system repairs. I attended a meeting last week where an Army historian spoke to the group and informed us that the DeWitt Theater is still listed in the U.S. Army as a permanent structure. Although the blueprint for it was for the usual wooden Army hospital theater structure, the Army contracted an outside architectural firm of McCoy and Butler on July 6, 1944, at a price of $25,247, which was a lot of money in 1944, to convert it to a permanent brick structure, for it was to be used to be part of a permanent Veterans Administration hospital in Northern California after the war. I asked him to define permanent, and he said for a lifetime and beyond. He said when the Army built it out of brick, it was considered permanent. This area of Placer County is your responsibility, Mr. Holmes. We are looking for you for leadership in resolving this issue. Many people feel the county has spent enough money uselessly and needs to do something productive for the citizens. Spending another $100,000 feasibility study for a center for seniors is probably not the answer. Please modify the master plan and stop the demolition of the buildings in the Costco project footprint. Please allow for open community input in the future planning for the DeWitt Center. And please preserve instead of demolishing these historic buildings in our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm Kay Fagette from Newcastle, and I just want to sort of build on what Mr. Coder said. He mentioned the master plan. Where is the plan? I've tried to find a good comprehensive plan for mixed use, which this public land is supposed to be done for, and all I see is destruction of public use buildings and businesses and everything else, and people just considering, what are we going to put up commercially that's going to bring in more taxes? This is supposedly mixed-use land, and it's public land, and the public should be in on all of what's going on from the very first. Things shouldn't be hidden. It shouldn't be done backwards. I don't think there should be any action with closing all these wonderful services that are being provided to the community by people that need it when there's no plan for what they're going to do to replace them or do anything else. Why destroy something that's bringing in a little bit of lease money, some of these properties are, when you've already wasted so much money? And what do? We close libraries. We do close more services to the community and have nothing in place of it. You don't get rid of anything until you have something good to replace it. And I think that we need to back up. I want to see a good master plan of where this is going to be used to service the public, and stop talking about just clearing it out, have the land, and then watch you go out and fill it up with commercial properties.
Thank you.
My name is Eleanor Patesky from Newcastle, and I would first of all like to congratulate you, Supervisor Montgomery. We're very proud of you. I also am here to speak on the DeWitt property. I think that what is happening up at the DeWitt property, which I want to remind you belong to the people of Placer County, is a pretty heartless situation. I don't see that the county has properly followed process, and I really urge you to stop the demolition. There is no reason to demolish buildings and to extend the leases for the senior center and for the DeWitt Theater. This is a historical site from World War II. This is an opportunity for the county to preserve buildings and to perhaps even have a World War II museum up there. This is also a place that offers all kinds of educational opportunities. We have the DeWitt Theater that does a lot with young people, with theater arts. Then you have the Senior Center, and I have used the Senior Center. I go to activities at the Senior Center. You're putting in a huge complex of senior housing on Bell Road, off Bell Road, yet you're destroying the Senior Center, and I don't get it. The fastest growing segment of population in this county are seniors, and so the Senior Center can be the heart of the DeWitt property. I would like to see the Board of Supervisors, I challenge you to check out an organization called PLACE, which is Projects Linking Arts, Community, and Environment. Spend some of this extra money that you have, evidently, which you've been going to this Costco project and LLC Conkey, and bring this organization in to show you what you can do to that property. I'm talking about parks, I'm talking about senior services, I'm talking about a village, I'm talking about something that people in North Auburn can enjoy. They can go out and walk through, their kids can play there, the seniors can come and interact with each other. Different programs and classes and things can be held there. That's public property. That's how you use public property. You don't drop some big box in the middle of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gary Mappa, Applegate. Congratulations, Jennifer. And congratulations to Sheriff Bond. I'm here to speak about the DeWitt Center. I'm not associated with any group at this time. I'm just aware of the concern I have for what's going on at DeWitt. In today's talk is kind of a continuation of what I got in front of you last fall. And my comment on the record was I was concerned about tearing anything down at DeWitt and demolishing any buildings until we worked through the Costco issue. And I never made any statement regarding whether I was in favor of Costco or any real plan for what's going on at DeWitt right now. But what I see is there's a lot of bees flying around and there's a hornet's nest that you're poking at it. And when I woke up this morning, I was trying to kind of figure out, what do I compare Costco and DeWitt and what's going on to in comparison to other entities that have control over properties. And in the first vision I had was Union Pacific Railroad. They're like gorillas. They go in and they do what they want to do and then ask for forgiveness later, or they go in and construct stuff. They're not good ambassadors of the environment. They destroy, and then they go in and get their permits after the fact. So what I see going on at DeWitt is there's just really what I think is really a lack of plans. Now, we've been asking for a real master plan for over a year, and we've never really gotten a master plan. It's just a little piece here and a piece over there, and with the food basket gets moved out, and you see things going on, and you find out about it because you don't pay attention. I don't pay attention. And now this last year, I'm having to see myself look at the agendas and look at the different items, and I don't have time to drill down on the different things going on, and then all of a sudden you hear such and such happened. Such and such cost the taxpayers $1 million. Costco, I haven't even got into the lease anymore than just the surface, and it needs to be clarified too. It looks like there's $539,000 that's floating around, and is the senior center making their move? Are they forced to make their move, or is that money being earmarked and moved somewhere else under some type of legal maneuver we don't know about? So that's the kind of stuff I want to see, is more transparency in what's going on with DeWitt. I remember years ago, and some of you may or may not remember, the Taxpayer League. Rolly Rumlin, who's gone, Pope, Kennedy, even George Beelan, I believe, was involved in the Taxpayer League. Brad Langner, who died last year. Can I borrow somebody's 3 minutes?
No. Need you to wrap up, please.
So, I would like the board to take a time out. 90 days, and at least get us on the agenda so these people can formulate some type of plan, get involved with what's going on in the decision-making process, and open it up to the public. And I'd like to see the board extend everybody's lease for at least 90 days during this timeout and figure out, let these guys get involved. Let them take their case to the public. Put them on the agenda. Thank you.
If I may, I want to applaud you for staying involved and engaged, because as a sitting supervisor, one of the biggest issues that I see are, and this is unfortunate, it's natural, people are trying to live their lives, they've got children, they've got businesses, they've got other things that are going on, is that there is transparency. We sit here, we get reports. You saw a report that was shown there a few minutes ago that expanded on experts coming in and taking a look at the engineering of the building. But what happens is that only when the process has been gone through for 2 or 3 or 4 years and a decision is made, does that generate any type of further inquiry on behalf of the public. So the perception is that government has been doing all of this in secret, when in actuality we've been up here. For example, someone mentioned the library. We've had 4 years of anticipatory reports on the status of the economics of the library. For 4 years we've heard the same thing. I've had numerous reports. But the perception is that, supervisors are doing, the board, government, CEO's office, whatever, are doing these things in private when they're very public. All right. So I applaud you for taking the time to look at those agendas, because it's extremely important. And folks like myself are not immune from this. And I'll give you an example. There was a development that was going on down in my neck of the woods, and according to the city's notice provisions, you had to be within a 100-foot sphere to get noticed. I was at 110 feet, and I found out a year and a half later, after the developer had gone through, paid all the expense, and the city had done all these different things. So I know what you feel. I know exactly what you feel like. But having been on both sides of the coin, notice, understanding, staying informed is your best option to fully vetting these kinds of issues that come forward.
And I think you and I agree. I think it's shame on us for not getting more involved in advance.
And I'm not trying to shame anybody. I'm just pointing out a thing that we struggle with as elected officials. So we'll just leave it at that.
And I agree, you guys are doing a great job.
Thank you.
I take back my comment about the railroad.
Anybody else wish to address the board under public comment? Mary, would you do me a favor? Would you step up here, please? I just have a question for you, or a couple, perhaps. I'm forgetting the precise year, but I know that it was in my first tour of duty back in the early 90s that we put together the first DeWitt master plan. Was it 94, 95, somewhere around there?
I think that's about the right time.
And since 94, 95, with the first DeWitt master plan, where we looked at the acreage out there and figured out what are we going to do with that property, we've updated that. When I got back on the board in about 06, 07, 8, we were in the process of doing an update to that plan as well. So we've had plans on the books for the DeWitt property now going back the better part of 20 years.
What we've had is a document that identified the overall county needs. I think what you're referring to in 08 was an analysis that we did that identified, based on demographics, the needs, and we did an analysis of those county operations that would be needed to be located in North Auburn. But right now we're undergoing that master plan effort, and so you very shortly will be seeing the efforts to actually pull together a whole comprehensive plan for the Placer County Government Center that takes into account any myriad of uses. There is certainly a plan for public involvement in that process, as most of our processes include. So I think in the next 2 months you should be seeing a plan or the outline of that plan, and will really be the kickoff for the next effort.
Great, thank you. Supervisor Wygant?
Just to build on that, Kirk, you and I did in fact sit together when we approved tearing off of the Auburn-Bowman Community Plan, which also went through a very thorough and public process. I was on the commission during that, planning commission, but on the board when we approved the master plan for the DeWitt Center, and it took into consideration the need of the county's properties at build-out, the fact that we would likely have surplus, very public discussion as to what we should do with those kinds of things, and how the rest of the DeWitt properties should be consistent with the Auburn-Bowman Community Plan. So it did go through a very extensive and lengthy public process and discussion and approval by the board. And it sounds like we simply need to revisit some of that publicly and bring in both an update and a revisitation to some of the policy elements.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. All right. With that, we'll go ahead and close public comment and get on to the agenda items that our board has today. What's that? Oh, I'm sorry, Supervisor Committee reports. There we go. Any board members have anything they wish to report? Supervisor Holmes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to make a comment regarding Mr. Coder's comment about the study for a senior center. It's not a study for a senior center. It's a study for a multi-generational community center in North Auburn. And so it's going to take in, my vision is to take in the Auburn Recreation District, Boys and Girls Club, the grammar school, Placer County the high school, and have an inclusive, including the city of Auburn, an inclusive community center. I toured the Maidu Center in Roseville a couple weeks ago. They have a wing that's dedicated to the seniors. My discussions with the executive director said that they're reevaluating the concept of providing service for the seniors because of the ongoing, people like me are seniors. Even the sheriff's a senior. Well, yeah, a mighty fine one too, I'll say. But it's a process. It's not just a senior center. It's a place for everyone to enjoy. Maybe there would be a theater component as well. So I think it's a worthy study. It's long overdue. I've had people talk to me for several years about a community center in North Auburn, something that would be of value for the Boys and Girls Club, for our youth, after-school programs, art classes, and those kinds of things. So I just wanted to clarify my understanding of what the community center concept is. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Supervisor Montgomery.
Thank you. I had the opportunity to attend my first Sierra Nevada Conservancy meeting as a board member last week. It was also quite coincidentally the 10th anniversary of the Sierra Nevada Conservancy, so they threw a fantastic party. But in the board meeting where it was for me. Yes, exactly, yes. But in the board meeting where we actually did some work, one of the things we did was adopt a watershed improvement plan through the Sierra Nevada Conservancy, and it really ties into what Placer County has been doing in terms of focusing on forest health, fire management, and watershed management. I will make sure that the rest of the board gets detail on that, but I think it dovetails really perfectly with Placer County's goals for forest management, and I'll certainly keep everyone updated on those meetings as I attend.
Great, thank you. Okay, seeing no other comments by board members, and looking around the room and having not seen this many sheriff's deputies in one place since my friend's 21st birthday, I'll go ahead and move on to our, I think you were there, although you were actually an invited guest. It was the others that caused a little consternation. And by the way, that has been expunged from my official record at this point. We're going to move on to our 9:10 timed item in recognition of Sheriff Ed Bonner's 40 years of service. We chose 9:10 because it's before your nap and dinner. We know you like to eat early these days, so we figured we'd go ahead and take this item first while we still had you with us. So Lori, if you would please, go ahead.
Good morning, board members. I'm pleased and privileged to bring this item to your board's agenda where we recognize the 40 years of service by Sheriff Ed Bonner. Ed Bonner grew up in Placer County and excelled in sports as a high school student. He earned the rank of Eagle Scout in 1965 and served as student body president at Del Oro High School in 1968. He began his law enforcement career with the Sheriff's Office in 1974 as a deputy. His assignments have included time in patrol, corrections, and investigations. He was promoted to sergeant in 1979 and transferred to the North Lake Tahoe substation, working patrol and investigations. In 1984, he assumed the position of acting lieutenant, and in 1985 was promoted to captain. In 1992, he was promoted to undersheriff and returned to the Auburn area. Originally elected as Placer County Sheriff in 1994, he has run unopposed in every election since, and he began his 6th term of office in January 2015. He has earned his master's degree in management science at Cal Poly Pomona in 1992, a Bachelor of Arts in Criminology at the University of California, Berkeley in 1973, and in 2008 served as the president of the California States Sheriff's Association. Today, we honor Ed Bonner for his prestigious career in law enforcement and pay tribute to his dedicated service. And as you know, we asked the award recipients this year to send us a then and now picture. And with Ms. Wood's assistance, we will demonstrate some of the pictures that represent the 40 years of community service. Then and now, think about 40 years ago. And during that span of time, the number of people that the sheriff had an opportunity to represent Placer County and become acquainted with. Is that President Clinton on the left side? And the governor? Not to mention all the community giving that we know the sheriff has been so well known for. And continues to represent us in such an outstanding manner. Sheriff, if you would come to the podium, we'd like to present you with your service award.
Thank you.
Ed, on behalf of the Placer County Board of Supervisors and a very grateful Placer County, I want to thank you for 40 years of outstanding service.
Thank you. Good.
Your turn.
Wow, thank you. Yeah, how'd that happen? How'd that happen? Where did the time go? I don't know. It's actually, Stone Robert, it's been 41 years in February. So it has been my honor, and I am just grateful for the opportunity. Years ago, that Bill Scott gave me when he hired a 22-year-old kid from Loomis. I thank Don Nunes for promoting me. I thank my family for their support over the years, and also my work family, many of who are here today. And Deputy Biggs back there did point out that I've been wearing this uniform longer than he has been alive. He was a nice kid, and I enjoyed him while I was here. And from my fellow electeds, I couldn't, I've always been a team sport guy. I couldn't think of better teammates to have than the boards I've had, and certainly this one. We've been together through the real tough times, through the tough economic times, and tough times in the organization. But you have always been there for me. And the friends I've made along the way, the people who have given me the opportunity over 6 terms to serve in the office of sheriff, I am so grateful to all of them. And really, I just have nothing. I thank you again, because I was out of town when we recognized those junior people who 20 years, 25 years, whatever, but I do appreciate you taking your time from your very busy agenda to recognize me. I thank you very much, and I am humbled and look forward to continuing to work together. So thank you very much.
Before you wander off, there are some comments some board members want to make. Supervisor Weigand, we'll start with you.
Thanks. So Ed and I actually have known each other for half a century now. That's not an exaggeration. It's actually, we met when we were 14. So we were running a track meet, and as a freshman, Ed set a Pioneer League record for the JV record in the 440 back then. Went on to get a scholarship to go to Cal to run track, and for the record, I achieved none of those things. Back then, we created demand for public protection services, and now you're a resource in public protection.
The funny world.
Interesting, and I said, who would have thunk way back when that here we would be doing what we're doing after all the years. But it's been great. You're even more fun to argue with about public policy than most of your colleagues and cohorts in the county family. But I just want to finish by saying that if you weren't a wimp, you would have kept the mustache. But thanks, Ed, for all you do. It's been great.
Supervisor Montgomery.
So I also met Ed when I was 14, which was 8 years ago. But I did meet Ed 8 years ago, and it doesn't seem like that long, but thinking back on it, looking at today's event for you, I realized it really actually has been 8 years since we first met. And it's been a really fascinating 8 years, and I think one of the things that I want to express is how much people in Tahoe still miss you. They talk about, what a great, basically a beat cop you were, and how you had this amazing model of community policing that really was very effective in Tahoe, and we continue that today, and I think it's based largely on your model. And hear it all the time from people. Ed Bonner was great to have up here. We wish he was still here. I explained to people you are still there because you are our county sheriff. But really just wanted to take the opportunity to say thank you. Thank you for your focus on public safety throughout the county. Tahoe often feels like we're not getting our fair share of attention, but everybody knows we are from you, and that's really important. And I think it's just, I wanted to express that to you on this occasion, and just say thanks for everything you do. And I think that I need to start carrying a sidearm, because that's 6 terms or 6 elections and not having anyone oppose you. There might be a connection. So, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Supervisor Duran.
Yes, Ed, I want to thank you again for your service. As many of you know, I work outside of this in the professional capacity, and I have the opportunity to interact with many law enforcement folks up and down the state. And because of Ed, and his reputation, when they find out I'm from Placer County, they kind of, it's a better discussion because they knew Ed. I also want to thank Ed for his ability, and it's that reputation that provides our community, law enforcement, public safety apparatus, whether it be sheriff, whether it be police, fire. Ed's kind of like that light at the top of the hill that gives us that calming effect of respect, integrity, and he's kind of like the glue that keeps our public safety apparatus together, and I applaud that. There are other communities that I visited that are dysfunctional, but it's because of Ed, I believe, that we stand together, and our number one priority is public safety. So thank you, Ed.
Thank you.
Supervisor Holmes.
I can't add to that. You're the closest thing to royalty in and I'm honored that I am your supervisor. You live in my district. Robert mentioned the track meet. I know you ran against my cousin Emery Holmes, and I believe it's a regional track meet in the 220, wasn't it?
It was the 880 relay.
Oh.
Emery had about a 20-yard lead on me. I smoked him.
Shortest guy, but also the fastest guy in the Holmes family. But I always remember that. And Emery held the record at Placer for the 220 until one of your deputies.
Yeah. Scott Bryan.
Yeah, Scott Bryan broke it.
Yeah.
He held that record for about 20 years. So anyhow, every time I look at the high school, at Placer High School, I think about you beating my cousin Emery. Thank you for all you do for us, and it's an honor that we have you as our county sheriff and recognized statewide and nationally. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate your friendship and also the fact that you did suit up today, wore green. I'm impressed.
Well, in addition to our own deputies that are here, I also want to introduce Captain Schroeder, the area commander for the California Highway Patrol. If you want to just raise your hands. Thank you very much for being here as well. So your track prowess lives on. Folks might not realize that while there have been several years have come and gone since 1969 when Ed Bonner established the record in the 200-meter for Del Oro High School. And if you have the occasion to go to the football stadium, they have a giant display board that lists all the various track records in Del Oro's history. And there's Ed Bonner's name up there since 1969, holding the record for the 200 meters. So that record still lives on. But more importantly, Ed, the impact that you have on this community will live on well past you and past all of us as elected officials. And everybody's familiar with the saying that the measure of a man's character is really what happens when people aren't looking. And I want folks to know that as a fellow Eagle Scout, Ed and I, along with a lot of other elected officials, are frequently invited to go to Eagle ceremonies when new Eagle Scouts are being given their badge. And Ed's run unopposed. Ed doesn't have to show up on a Sunday afternoon at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and give up his afternoon to talk to these young men who are about to leave scouting with that rank of Eagle and go on throughout their lives carrying that badge with them. Ed never misses an Eagle Scout ceremony to which he's invited, and that's a tremendous testament to the character of you as a man, Ed, that you're willing to be there for these young men who can't give back to you immediately. Most of them aren't even old enough to vote yet. But you're there to be impactful, as you always are, as you have been over the 40-plus years that you've been serving Placer County. We thank you.
Thank you, Kurt. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, just
Yes.
a brief comment that there is
Yeah.
a reception for the sheriff in Conference Room A.
Great. Thank you. You'll have no shortage of deputies, I'm sure, happy to help you with a knife. All right, as we give them a moment to file out, we will ask our 4-H All-Stars to go ahead and step forward for our next item, our 9:15 timed item. Good morning. So this is a presentation by the 4-H All-Stars regarding the 4-H program, and I have on my notes that Philip is going to lead us, but I'm guessing at this point we're just going to go ahead and have one of you step on up and begin the presentation. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I have them on mine. That's right. We'll go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Henya McEnroe, and I am a Placer County 4-H ambassador. I have been a member of the Gold Country 4-H for 9 years. 4-H offers youth many opportunities to develop leadership and skills and serve our community. At the individual level, many of us high school youth lead projects and mentor youth new to 4-H, sharing our knowledge and experience. This year, I am a team leader for dessert baking, novice horse, dairy goat, and pygmy goat projects. At the club level, many of us serve as officers. This year, I'm the president of my club. At the county level, we are some of your all-star team. This year, I was among several Placer County All-Stars to attend the 3-day leadership conference held at UC Santa Cruz. The letters of SLC were incorporated into the theme as they stood for seek, learn, and change. And each day was centered around one of these inspirational words. Throughout the conference, 3 motivational speakers passed their message on to the attending 4-Hers and stressed the importance of facing and tackling difficult issues, both personally and as a team. We are using what we learned to implement more effective officer teams, community service projects throughout Placer County. In addition to helping us hone our leadership skills, 4-H teaches the value of serving and helping our communities. On the individual 4-H level, promotes community service by offering a prestigious Emerald Star Project to youth who plan and carry out a 1 or 2 year long community service project, such as renovating the bathrooms at the fairground, improving hidden falls, trails, creating gardens at Acres of Hope shelter, and many others. On the project level, my sisters and I, along with other project members, take our dairy goats to various venues, from nursing homes to Earth Day to community festivals to public school, hoping to help connect people with their food supply. On the club level, I've participated in many community efforts to help others, such as the Auburn Area Christmas Basket Program, Salvation Army Thanksgiving, Stuff a Bus, Valentine's for Vets, Operation Mom, Horses for Healings, and many others. Nationwide, 4-H partners with Easter Seals, and we participate in the Lily Days fundraising each year in April. Overall, I am grateful for what I have learned through my involvement with 4-H and the opportunities I have had to serve others and hopefully strengthen our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I have a few pictures that I'd like to just give you guys while I get you.
Hand them to the clerk of the board there, please, and she'll hand them on up. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sunit Narwan. I'm in my 8th year in 4-H and am a first year in college. When my mom first took my sister and I to a 4-H meeting in 6th grade, I had no idea what it was. Little did I know, that night I joined an organization that had a profound effect on my life. 4-H quickly became one of my favorite extracurricular activities to take part in. This taught me life and leadership skills that I use to this day. During my time in 4-H, I was elected secretary, historian, and president of my club. I also became involved with the All-Star program and 4-H camp staff. Through my various leadership positions, I was able to attain a diverse set of skills which helped to define the person I am today. It wasn't until a couple years after I joined that I learned about what became the highlight of my summer, 4-H camp. For the past 5 years, I have been a part of the staff at the week-long overnight camp in Tahoe. This past summer, I was selected as one of the junior camp directors. I really enjoyed this new challenge as I was given the task of guiding the counselors and running activities to ensure that the week would go well. As a counselor and junior camp director, I worked with kids from all types of backgrounds. From this, I learned how to navigate individual relationships and deal with complex situations. Starting in February, we had monthly meetings up until the camp where we would plan the entire camp schedule and divide up the various tasks amongst the counselors. Camp taught me more than I could have ever imagined. Handling homesick campers almost every summer was not easy, but it proved to be a rewarding experience. Looking back on this past summer, I remember this one young girl especially well as it was her first time away from home. On the second day of camp, she came up to me and asked if she could call her parents. I asked her why she wanted to leave so soon, and she explained to me that she was not having a good time. After sitting down and talking to her about all the fun activities she has yet to experience, she agreed to stay for at least one more day. Every night I came up to her and asked her how her day was, and she would tell me about all the fun she was having. It was one of the most gratifying experiences as she ended up staying the whole week and thanked me for encouraging her to stay. 4-H camp has always been the highlight of my summer, and I feel blessed to have been a part of such an amazing team of volunteers. I have always had a passion for working with kids and try my best to be a good role model. This experience has impacted my life positively as I have made some unforgettable memories and lifelong friends. Over my nearly 8 years in 4-H, I have enhanced my leadership abilities exponentially. I am thankful to the 4-H program for giving me the opportunity to be a leader and help out my community. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Mia Zimmer, and I'm a Placer County 4-H All-Star and the president of the Ophir 4-H Club. Before I begin speaking about my experience in the program, I'd first like to thank the board for having us here today, and Supervisor Holmes for, on behalf of Del Oro, coming to rock the vote and telling us about your participation in local politics and encouraging the seniors to become involved. The Placer County 4-H program has presented me with countless opportunities and priceless experiences. The program has benefited my family, friends, and has encouraged growth in everyone involved in the incredible mission of the program. I joined the 4-H program when I moved to Auburn about 6 years ago. I began my 4-H career showing steers at the Gold Country Fair. However, the leaders of my club expected me to reach my full leadership potential, and with the help of my family, I found my true interest in the program, leadership. Two of the best experiences of my life were encountered as I continued down my leadership path. Our county runs an excellent public speaking program centered around Toastmasters curriculum. I am proud to be the project's coordinator this year, and I'm humbled by the will and strength of the youth I help teach become effective communicators. 4-H has provided me and these youth with this opportunity. The support of my family and my county and state 4-H programs led me to National 4-H Conference. I was selected along with 5 other delegates to attend the conference in Washington, D.C. There, I met with 4-Hers from 47 other states, Puerto Rico, and Canada. I was surrounded by the diversity of our nation and made aware of the incredible changes that could be made by those willing to toil and work together. I discovered the value of diversity in ideology and culture when I was randomly placed in a team of people from other delegations to create a presentation on the school-to-prison pipeline. At the end of my week in D.C., my team and I presented our PowerPoint to the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention. Later that week, I was given the opportunity to visit our senators' offices and meet my representative, Doug LaMalfa. It was an honor to educate them about the wonderful program I belong to. We are here today to share with you the ways the Placer County 4-H program has inspired us and the opportunities we have been given. The best way to thank the incredible people who work and volunteer for this program is to share its objective with you, and that is to improve and nurture the community and its youth. Thank you.
Thank you. You want to step back to the microphone, please, so we have you on the record. Oh, the pictures. You're looking for the, I'm sorry. Yeah, you should have a picture. All right. Comments or questions by board members? These young ladies. Jennifer Montgomery.
I would just like to say thank you to all 3 of you for being leaders. I think you were here earlier when Julia Burrows spoke, and I would love to have conversations with any of you about maybe going into politics at some point, because we are looking for future women leaders, and I'd like to see another woman up here someday. So if you'd like to reach out to me, I'd love to hear from any of you and have that conversation. Thank you. Great job.
Supervisor Holmes.
I too just want to thank you for your leadership in 4-H and your growth as individuals. I want to thank Jessica for her role as the education leader for the 4-H program. It's exciting to see young people excel, and 4-H is not often recognized as the great organization that it is, and your participation here does elevate that discussion. So thank you so much for your participation. Thank you.
Supervisor Wygant.
Personally, I find it a little bit scary that you actually would meet with my colleague Jennifer, but I'll make peace with that. I do want to point out to my colleagues that there are actually men in 4-H too.
Yeah,
Something's going on. As a former member of the Mount Pleasant 4-H Club, congratulations again. You guys are just great examples, and good luck in the future, and keep us posted as to your success. Thank you.
Thank you for being here this morning. Appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Okay, we will go ahead and take up our 9:30 timed item. This is a Public Works item, removal of 7-ton weight restrictions on Nelson Lane north of Highway 65. And this, I understand, is where Philip is going to shine.
And if Supervisor Euler, I'm going to recuse myself from this item and leave the room. I have interest in property at the Lincoln Airport.
That's a hard act to follow, by the way. I don't know if I can follow that. Good morning, board members and Mr. Chair. Phil Vashon with the Department of Public Works. Today to talk to you about a proposed removal of a 7-ton weight restriction off of Nelson Lane. Let's see if I can...
I think the little remote's sitting right over there on the... That's what you're going to be looking for.
A little bit of background information for you. Currently, Nelson Lane from Moore Road to the south to Nicholas Road to the north currently has a 7-ton weight restriction on it, which precludes commercial vehicles over 14,000 pounds from using it. Why did we put the restriction on there? 3 reasons, really, due to the narrowness of the roadway, the Markham Ravine Bridge not being able to handle the loads, it being an obsolete bridge deemed by Caltrans, and also the poor condition of the pavement. Here is an aerial of Nelson Lane, which runs north and south, Moore Road on the south, Nicholas Road on the north, with Highway 65 cutting it in the middle almost. You can see the Lincoln Airport on the top of the page and Aviation Boulevard. Let's talk about Nelson Lane north of Highway 65. In October of 2012, when the Lincoln bypass was open, Nelson Lane has seen an increase of volume of traffic on Nelson Lane from 1,200 vehicles per day to 12,000 vehicles per day. So the City of Lincoln was the lead agency on an improvement project on Nelson Lane, where they did several things to the roadway. Number 1, construction of Nelson Lane from 2 to 4 lanes. They replaced the bridge over Markham Ravine with 2 new bridges. The traffic is separated by a very large median bioswale to treat the runoff. And there are left turn lanes provided at Nicholas Road and Rockwell Lane. There's a picture of Nelson Lane up near the bridges. You can see the 2 new bridges, northbound and southbound, and also the condition of the new pavement with the bioswale in the middle, very large bioswale, and the wide shoulders as well. Another picture more near Highway 65 looking north again with the left turn pocket into Rockwell Lane. There are many project benefits that I'd like to list for you. There's reduced vehicle delay since it's now a 4-lane roadway. It can handle more volume of traffic. Improved safety and traffic operations since you have a brand new roadway, 4 lanes with wide shoulders and a very wide median. Improved safety. And it provides a more direct access for traffic and trucks to access the Lincoln Airport and Western Lincoln from Highway 65. We did visit the rural Lincoln MAC on January 12th, and they voted against the lifting of the weight restriction. The improvements to Nelson Lane, really, we don't really see a nexus or a reason to keep the 7-ton weight restriction since based upon all the improvements that have happened. Another item of note I should mention is that we also looked at Nelson Lane south of Highway 65. And because of the narrowness of the roadway there, we're keeping the restriction there. And we also looked at South Brewer Road as well There were a couple of bridges that were replaced on South Brewer Road, but because of the poor condition of the pavement, we're going to keep the weight restriction there as well. So really, the proposal is to remove the weight restriction off of Nelson Lane north of Highway 65.
I'm assuming that concludes your presentation. You're ready for questions. Is that what that means? Okay. Any board members? Supervisor Montgomery.
I did have a question. What was the reasoning again for the MAC voting against it?
I believe the reason is that, a couple of reasons. They weren't really familiar with the new project. They weren't really aware of it. And the second reason is because there was a gentleman out in the area that was concerned with the noise levels, and they listened to his concern, and thus they're voting against it.
And did the gentleman specify what his noise concerns were? Thanks, Rich.
Richard Moorhead with Public Works. I was the one that went to the MAC that day. Phil happened to be off. His concerns really were around, he thought the environmental document was inadequate. The noise level they projected he didn't believe was correct, and the noise level he is hearing today is higher than what they said it would be. I know Phil has talked with the engineer, the project engineer from the city of Lincoln, and they're still talking with that resident, but the MAC felt they wanted to keep the restriction in place until that issue was resolved.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Duran.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that the road is built to ASTO's specifications, all those things, it's engineered correctly. There's no issue with removing the weight limit at all from an engineering standpoint?
In our opinion, and based upon me talking to the engineer from the city of Lincoln, there's no issue or concerns with structural integrity of the roadway being able to handle those loads, and also the bridge, the new bridge, being able to handle. And when I talk about loads, I'm talking about legal loads, okay? And they range anywhere between 17 and 40 tons based upon, how many axles, the tractor-trailer combination, and what the spacing is between axles. Anything above that, then you would need a transportation permit.
Okay. And another question, was there an EIR or some type of environmental document done with this, or was it?
I don't know what environmental document was done for the clearance of Nelson there, but it was certainly a federally funded project. There was some federal money involved. So I know there was an environmental document done. I don't know what environmental document was done for that, but certainly was done for the clearance to construct those bridges in the roadway.
And it was a federal funding? So
there was some federal funding involved because of the bridge money. Okay. And then there's also local money, and I'm not sure of all of the flavors of money that went in there, but certainly there were different funding streams.
Probably a NEPA, but anyway, were there any complaints other than this gentleman about the noise, or any comments or anything?
There was only that one complaint, and again, the unfamiliarity. None of the MAC members that were there that night had even seen the new constructed road.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Holmes?
Just going back before the road was improved, the 7-ton weight limit didn't preclude deliveries that are in the area. For example, a propane truck could deliver propane, truck and trailer, hay, could still use that roadway. The restriction is to keep unnecessary truck traffic off the road. Now that it's improved, it's open for any type of...
That is true. So any load that needed to go there for, you're right, direct access delivery, but anything that was going up through the airport would have come through the city of Lincoln and up that direction. So they would not have been able to use that connection. And with the new bypass being constructed, it's certainly a more direct route and makes sense. The roadway's been reconstructed, the bridges are reconstructed to remove that 7-ton weight limit.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Any member of the public wish to address the board on this item? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the board for motion and action.
Move approval.
A motion from Montgomery and second from Duran. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? None? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll move on to, I was going to take department item number 1, but we need... Okay, so our first department item is simply the minutes of the February 3rd board meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
Move approval.
We have a motion by Montgomery and second by Holmes. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, none, and abstentions. Supervisor Grant abstains. Thank you very much. We'll move to item 5A, Lincoln Village 1 Tax Sharing Agreement. And Michelle is going to be presenting to us with a giant binder of stuff.
Good morning, Michelle Kingsbury with the Community Development Resource Agency. The item before you today is to check in with the board regarding the proposed Lincoln Village 1 tax sharing agreement, to provide you with an update regarding the material terms that the city has presented to the county and open it up for some discussion and input from the board, and we'll come back at a later date with a more formal agreement. Lincoln Village 1 is located in the city's Lincoln sphere of influence. It's on approximately over 1,800 acres. It proposes a little over 5,600 residential units and about 167,000 of commercial square footage. It's bisected by Highway 193 toward the eastern portion of the city of Lincoln, west of Sierra College Boulevard. City staff approached county staff about a little over 6 months ago to initiate discussions regarding the tax sharing agreement. The general mechanics of that proposed agreement follow almost word for word what was previously approved back in February 2014 for Lincoln Village 7. The main points are for the first 3 years to share property tax revenue on a 50-50 basis. Thereafter, to continue to work on developing a fiscal model. And after the third year, if that model is not developed, we'd split everything 60-40, 60% to the county and 40% to the city. It mirrors word for word what was proposed and approved for Lincoln Village 7. Just as a general update for Village 7, we have not begun the fiscal model for that project yet. So we're still in the first few years of that project. In addition, just like Village 7, they are proposing to have the project pay the countywide capital facility fee that would be due at each residential building permit when it's pulled. We've met with city staff on several occasions. In addition, we've had the opportunity to meet with the recent city manager, Matt Brower, a few weeks ago and reviewed the general mechanics of the agreement. We're all working together and proceeding down the path to come back to the board. A few other items we've brought up with the city, one of them being that within Lincoln Village 1, the county does own property that's commonly known as the Lincoln Missile Site. It's proposed in the Village 1 plan to be commercial up at the top and open space, for the remaining portion of the property. We've reiterated the importance of that site for the county. It's the Public Works Corporation yard there that generally serves West Placer County. We need to maintain access and the importance of that property to us, and they're generally in concurrence with that. In addition, we brought up with our Bickford Ranch that's in with a specific plan amendment the issue of sewer for the original project. The prior developers of that had given the city over $7 million for sewer treatment capacity and conveyance. The agreement with the city sunsetted back, I think, in 2010. And with the new project that's come forward, we've reiterated with the city the importance of continuing those discussions with the city and how to mitigate that issue so that the project doesn't have to double pay, again, for the same capacity that was paid for before. Our West Park, who represents the property owner there, does have a follow-up meeting with the city next week, and certainly our sewer division is here as well if you have more technical questions regarding that project. Generally, that's an overview of the mechanics and material terms. I think all the findings and recommendations that were included in Lincoln Village 7 when it was approved back in 2014 follow the same with this project. It's certainly not meant to be precedent-setting, but working together as a partnership with the City of Lincoln to continue to grow out of the economic recession on both sides. With that brief presentation, we'll certainly open it up for any questions, comments, and input. And we're looking to come back to the board at a later date with the more formal agreement based upon your input received today.
Great, thank you. Supervisor Duran?
Yeah, just a general comment. It would have been nice to have the outline of the agreement that was previously negotiated or with regards to Village 7, because right now I've got a blank piece of paper in front of me. So the second thing is I appreciate your comment on this not being precedent setting, because I know that there are other annexations that are proposed, and I certainly don't want anybody to think that that this is our method of negotiation, is just entering into, picking out a couple of terms that we both agree to, and then we'll do the work later. Because if that's the approach that's going to be taken in other annexations, you'll find very quickly that don't bring me something like that. But if Supervisor Wygant is satisfied with the way that this has gone on, I will give deference to him with regards to what he and what CEO staff believe to be the way that this arrangement should take place. I view these tax share agreements as very important and critical, and I certainly am not going to put my name on a tax share agreement unless I know exactly what's in it and I read the document. So while I'll go along with this, with the way that we're doing this today, I want to let everybody know that this isn't how I operate in my district. All right?
Understood.
Okay.
Supervisor Holmes.
I'm kind of concerned about the $7 million payment that SunCal, was it Southwest Bickford Holdings, paid to the town of Loomis, or the city of Loomis. So it is the city's expectation that West Park will have to pay $7 million again? Is that their expectation?
What they've indicated to staff is the agreement has expired, and therefore the West Park will have to go back in and as I take it, renegotiate. They certainly have a meeting coming up, I think, next week, but that's where it was left.
All right. Well, whatever happens, I want that resolved before it comes back to me, because some doesn't sound right.
Understood.
So whatever it takes to resolve that. Thank you.
Okay, Supervisor Montgomery.
I want to echo both Supervisor Duran's comments and Supervisor Holmes' comments. I think it's critically important, again, speaking for the 5th District, that any potential annexations that come forward, I want to see tax sharing agreements fully fleshed out before we even really consider them in a public setting. I'm also very concerned, maybe not concerned is the right word, but interested in the question of the sewer capacity and the funding for that, and would like to be kept in the loop on how those conversations are going, since it sounds like they will be meeting in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Supervisor Wygant.
So first, I'll echo the comments by 3 of my colleagues, but a couple of informational things for all of us in the public, for sure. And then I'll start with a question, though. What do you, Michelle, know the average property tax that's available for sharing in Village 1?
It's got 5 tax rate areas that range from 27 to 32%.
27 to 32 cents. So that's a little bit better than some of the other. So I think everybody understands that one of the misfortunes that the county and the city of Lincoln have, but particularly the city of Lincoln, is that they have an unusually low tax component available for sharing as compared to the other city jurisdictions that have gone through the annexation process, and that's just bad luck as it relates to what happened with Prop 13 when it was implemented. So it's a tougher challenge in Lincoln. And then as also a reminder, Lincoln's general plan, one of the critical components in it is to have a strategy whereby they can increase their sales tax capture to some kind of South Placer average, if you will, because they're incredibly deficient as it relates to that. So for their long-term financial health, which I think is in all of our interests, those two dynamics are issues that are anomalies, at least as it relates to Rockland and Roseville. And it does potentially prospectively put us in this partnership type of mode for which I'm supportive, as long as at the end of the day the county has has the ability to not see our levels of service be diminished on average countywide. So I've always made that point, and I'm looking to staff to make sure that they can reassure me that we can do that in the long run, and that we have mechanisms in place that that cause us over time to adapt with Lincoln to these changes to make sure that all of us are left at least whole and hopefully instead of that actually enjoy prosperity like we have in the past. So I'm looking for that feedback as we go forward. On the sewer issue as it relates to Bickford, again, for public comment, personally I was involved in some conversations as that went forward, and I guess I have a question, Michelle. One is, so you know, I am not supportive of any county monies going into the bucket to offset the history that might have been involved. So I'm assuming now that with Bickford project, the current applicant, if you will, I know West Park represents Lehman. They are the property owner, Lehman, and so I'm assuming what they're engaged in is a negotiation with the City of Lincoln as it relates to how they're going to have sewer treatment provided, which is a requirement in the county's approval of the existing Bickford Branch project. And I sure don't see us having any political obligation as relates to what happened historically, unless somebody can bring me some information to the contrary. So a little bit surprised to hear that in your presentation, and just wanted to be clear as to my position on all those elements. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, this is not an action item. This was just an opportunity for the board to provide comments and feedback to staff. I think that has been accomplished. And so with that, we'll thank you for your presentation, and we'll go ahead and move on to our next item. This is item number 5B. These are contract amendments, budget revisions for the Placer County Conservation Plan. I had assumed Warren would be the guy leading the charge on this, but in his absence, I guess we'll have to settle for his boss.
Thank you. Michael Johnson with the Community Development Resource Agency. Lauren Clark was to make the presentation this morning, but as you are aware, Mr. Euler, he is back in Sacramento meeting with the federal agencies to continue the discussions on the contract amendments that we're presenting to you this morning. Staff brings forward several contract amendments for work programs which the board has authorized. The first contract amendment is for the housing element update. Previously, your board certified the housing element for Placer County. Part of that housing element included a program to investigate and prepare studies for workforce housing up in the Tahoe area. As your board is aware, workforce housing is a very important issue and difficult for the property owners to provide up in the very expensive eastern part of the county. So staff brings forward a contract to work with the town of Truckee, the Martis Fund, and other programs up there to look for equitable ways to provide employee housing for the employees of our region. Also on the east side of the county, there's a contract amendment for the Tahoe Area Basin Community Plan update. As your board was previously informed, county staff continues to work with GRPA staff to make changes to that area plan. The contract amendment is proposed to address the changes that are needed to get this forward to public hearing. And lastly, there are contract amendments proposed for the Placer County Conservation Plan. This is a work program that has been going on for many years, and over the last several weeks, through the efforts of Mr. Euler and Mr. Wygant, the county has heard from the federal agencies that the document is in a state where the agencies can support the document. They have directed staff to move forward with the environmental document. And so the contract amendments that you see are to allow staff to work with our consultants to take this forward to completion. It's actually very exciting news. Mr. Euler and Mr. Wygant, since 2007, have sat on the ad hoc committee with the representatives from the City of Lincoln.
Kirk was 14.
Yeah, this has been a long time in coming, and it's a very exciting time for the county. Mr. Wygant was here for the inception, the concept of the PCCP, and to be able to have the federal agencies step up and say, this document is ready, we can stand behind it and support it is very encouraging. So with that, Staff looks for the board's support on these contract amendments, and staff is available to respond to any questions the board may have.
Supervisor Montgomery?
Well, I want to start by congratulating Chairman Euler and Supervisor Wygant for all their work in getting us to this point. It's been really, really heavy lifting, and I know the rest of us appreciate you guys taking that on and not having us deal with it. So sincerely, my thanks on that. I did want to comment on the Eastern Placer ones and the action that we're being asked to take in terms of the affordable housing needs assessment. I am absolutely delighted to see that this is a regional discussion and that we are going to be working with the town of Truckee. Although we are two different counties and an incorporated town up there, we share so many of the same needs, and unfortunately we share so many of the same deficiencies in being able to provide this housing. And I'm just delighted that we're going to be having this conversation. I want to make sure that we'll be including some of the large resorts, since there are some proposals that are coming forward that could potentially expand their employee base, and we do have requirements as relating to providing housing, employee housing for additional employees. I want to make sure that they're included in that conversation, so both Squaw Valley, Alpine Meadows, and then North Star as well. And I think potentially maybe bringing in the proponents for the Martis Valley West project as well, because that will be bringing a substantial amount of new housing inventory into Eastern Placer County. So just wanted to make sure that was on the record. But
We'll do that. Thank
I'm
you.
absolutely delighted that we're moving forward with this.
Supervisor Wygant?
Don't mean to correct you, Michael, but actually I think there's huge thanks needs to go to Lauren Clark for a range of ways. And then second, as it relates to the conservation plan, and then second, I want to thank Kirk for being willing to take on a minor committee assignment 7 years ago as it relates to all of this.
8, but who's counting?
Okay. But for everybody's information, I think Michael actually described it well, but for many years, as related to the concept with the PCCP, one, it's extraordinarily comprehensive. It includes elements that actually have never been done before, and in that, being that it was more than an average risk position, I guess, with loftier ambitions, we always communicated to the regulatory agencies, of which there are many, that we wanted to make sure that when we started our environmental review, we didn't have to go back and redo much of it because of the cost associated with that and all of the other implications. And last Wednesday, in a critically important meeting, the service and on telephone with the Corps gave us the go-ahead to proceed with the environmental review. So I want to thank staff at every level and county exec's office for all the support, and for Kirk for being willing to jump in on the ad hoc committee. This is definitely a team sport business that we're in, and I don't think anything in my experience exemplifies the requirement of that as compared to this particular issue, but we've reached a huge landmark.
Supervisor Holmes?
Yes, I want to congratulate the committee on this. When I was running for office in 2003, 2004, this thing came forward, and I'm saying, please do this before I get on the Board of Supervisors. But it didn't happen. But anyhow, I know it's a really arduous process, and I congratulate the committee for working on it. I just want to recognize my minor part that I had in this, just making sure that Supervisor Euler was on the committee. So, thank you.
Okay, we are being asked to approve item 5B, 1 through 6 inclusive. Do we have a motion?
Move approval. Second.
Okay, we have a motion, Montgomery, second, Wygant, as this is a budget revision, requires a roll call, please.
Montgomery?
Yes.
Duran? Wygant?
Yes.
Holmes?
Yes.
Euler?
Aye. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to item number 6, Facility Services, Property Management, Human Services, Employment Services, Lease Amendment number 3.
Good morning, Chairman Euler and the board. Michael Mezakowski, Senior Project Manager and Department of Facility Services. I'm here today on behalf of Human Services to seek your board's approval for a lease amendment to expand the premises at 1000 Sunset for the Human Services, Work Experience, and Employment Services programs. The current space of 1000 Sunset has proven inadequate in size due to legislative action requiring counties to increase their delivery of employment services to recipients of the CalWorks program. Human Services requested that Property Management develop a plan for their space needs and negotiate a lease amendment with the landlord to expand their premises. The programming effort determined that they require approximately 3,830 square feet of additional space. The new space will consist of a state fair hearings room, a hearings interview room, an office for economic development, 2 staff supervisor offices, a conference room, a file storage room for forms and materials, and a staff lunchroom. The landlord at 1000 Sunset has agreed to construct the tenant improvements on behalf of the county at a cost not to exceed $445,000. Furthermore, the landlord has agreed to contribute $37,576 towards the improvements and waive its 3% construction management fee. This project is funded in part by budgeted fiscal year 2015 capital funds of $465,624, program funds of $17,000, and the landlord contribution of $37,576. For an estimated turnkey project cost of $520,000 that would include furnishings, telecom, and all the related equipment. Annual rent associated with the expansion of $60,120 annually is to be funded by the Department of Health and Human Services. To proceed with the Human Services expansion, we are requesting that your board authorize the Director of Facility Services to finalize negotiations and to execute and administer the lease amendment subject to the material terms. Thank you very much for your time, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to address them.
Supervisor Holmes?
Yeah, you commented about the fair hearings rooms.
Yes, sir.
You said the state fair hearings room.
It is, sir.
It sounded like it was going to be for the state fair.
It is. There was one.
No,
at
California State Fair, CalExpo. So I know it's not that. I just wanted to clarify it. It's a hearing.
It is that state.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or observations by board members? Members of the public wish to address the board on this item. Okay, we are being asked to approve a lease amendment and authorize execution and administration of the lease. Do we have a motion? Motion, Holmes, second, Duran. Did the clerk of the board have a comment or a concern about that? No? Okay. All right. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Moving on, Dowd Road over Yankee Slough Bridge Replacement Project, contract number 1200.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and board members. So I'm excited to present another bridge construction contract this morning for your consideration. My name is Matt Randall, and I'm a senior engineer with the Public Works Department. And this morning we're asking you to adopt a resolution awarding contract number 1200 for the construction of the bridge replacement project on Dowd Road over Yankee Slough to McGuire and Hester in an amount not to exceed $2,568,944 with County Council and Risk Management review and approval, and there's no net county cost. We're also asking to authorize the chair of the board to execute contract number 1200, and then also ask for you to authorize the Director of Public Works to execute contract change orders up to an amount, an additional 10% of the contract amount. So the background on this project is this is one of our county's most unhealthy bridges, so much so that we needed to install a temporary support a few years back just to keep it safe for the public. And since then, we've been working to this point where we could award this construction contract to McGuire and Hester. And you authorized our advertisement for bids on December 9th, and we actually received 9 competitive bids, and the apparent low bidder is McGuire and Hester. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
All right, board members have any questions? I don't see any. Any members of the public wish to address the board on this? And seeing none, what's the pleasure of the board in regard to the Yankee Slough Bridge replacement project?
Second.
All right, we'll give Holmes the motion and Wygant the second. How's that? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? None? Thank you very much. Moving on to County Executive, North Lake Tahoe Resort Association, 15-16 capital projects. Ms. Merchant, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm here today to discuss a recommendation from the North Lake Tahoe Resort Association regarding their 15-16 capital projects. In accordance with the County Resort Association contract scope of work, allocation of transient occupancy tax funds is now being accomplished through an annual call for projects process. Previously, applicants were considered on a first-come, first-served basis. The call for projects improves prioritization of fund allocation in the context of competing needs and requires annual rather than ongoing or even monthly, sometimes, project review and recommendation. The Resort Association Capital Investment Transportation Committee and their Board of Directors both recommend the expenditure of $1,481,609 in transient occupancy tax funds to provide funding support to 10 projects. All of the projects are located within eastern Placer County. The funding will be held from TOT collections budgeted during the current fiscal year and be allocated in FY 15-16. Each project is outlined in more detail in the staff report, but briefly they include the following projects. Truckee River Trail Restoration. The first year's allocation would be $433,859. The total project share from TOT funds is about $1.3 million. This is a 3-year project. Martis Valley Trail, $250,000 for segment 3A. Squaw Valley Bike Trail Staging Area Rehabilitation. This again is year 1 of a 2-year project that will include the subsequent trail phase in Squaw Valley. That's $246,500. North Tahoe Regional Park Trail and Wayfinding Signage, $135,000. Tahoe Public Art Program, $125,000. Tahoe City Mobility Improvements Plan, $85,000. Tahoe City Parking Facilities Project Plan, $85,000. Excuse me. Lake Tahoe Water Conditions Interactive Displays, $65,000. Speedboat Beach Master Plan, $50,000, and I do want to reference this item specifically. We had some comment during the Resort Association's Infrastructure and Transportation Committee, as well as the board from the Adjacent Neighborhood Association. Their concerns were that we're going to be drawing more people to the beach by preparing a master plan. It has been clarified in a subsequent meeting with the Neighborhood Association that really the plans to make any improvements that would fall out of the master plan really is in an attempt to mitigate existing conflicts and impacts by visitors on that facility. So the total amount of that is for $50,000, and based on discussion with the Neighborhood Association, the scope of work will include consideration of pedestrian access improvements, informational and interpretive signage, parking and restroom, whoops, facility options, and also create additional opportunities for feedback from the facility users as well as the adjacent neighborhood. And then the final project on the list for today's consideration is the Tahoe City Field Station Wayfinding Signage in the amount of $6,250. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, questions by board members? Supervisor Duran?
Yeah, I just need a clarification. I noticed that it says here, and you stated that this is for a fiscal year, funds aren't available, so we're not being asked to carry anything. We're just approving these projects, and the funding's going to come in from the TOT at a later date. Is that correct?
No, and I'm sorry that wasn't clear. The TOT funds are actually budgeted for the current fiscal year, but the way that the system has been developed. They're collected in this year, and they would not be expended until next year. So the funds technically would be available right now. Normally, we would process the funds as soon as there was a request, but it was the recommendation by the committee and the board to hold the funds for 1 year so that they could get into a regular cycle of collection and then allocation. So they will be allocated starting in 15-16, even though we have them right now in the county treasury.
Okay, and that was my concern, is that we weren't fronting money, betting that it was going to come in.
No.
As needed. Okay, thank you. That's
Sure.
That's all I had.
Supervisor Montgomery.
Yeah, thank you, Supervisor Duran, and thank you, Jennifer, for clarifying that. I think there's a lot of really good proposals here in front of us, and thank you very much for clarifying the issue on the Speedboat Beach Master Plan, that, this is really intended to address existing problems/issues that we have at that facility and figure out how to make them better. It's not a proposal to add visitation to Speedboat Beach, which is a highly visited beach already. I did want to touch just briefly on the Lake Tahoe water conditions interactive displays.
Yes.
I think this is actually a really interesting idea. And I just want to stress that I think the idea of putting it in 3 high visitation facilities in Placer County is a good idea, but I'd like a better understanding of where we think those might be. I mean, I'm thinking, for example, our center here in Auburn on Central Square would be a great place for one of these for visitors who are on their way to Tahoe to see what's going on at the lake before they get there. Did we have any idea of where those 3 high visitation facilities might be?
Great question. That was the source of much discussion at the committee and the board. In fact, the committee did not recommend approval the first time around, and UC Davis came back to the board meeting and clarified, answering some of those questions. Right now, the intention is to put one of the stations at the fish hatchery in Tahoe City at their current interpretive center there, and the other 2 locations have yet to be determined. I think it's everyone's best guess that the Tahoe City Visitor Center that's operated by the North Lake Tahoe Resort Association would be another good location, but there was discussion that it's pretty close to the Lake Forest Station, so could they spread it out a little bit? The Resort Association has discussed, but has not acted on yet, placing a visitor center in the Kings Beach area, so perhaps that would be another location. The staff report does mention that we would recommend that the funds not be allocated until the actual locations were recommended and then approved through the Resort Association. So we don't have a solid answer yet, but there is a plan to review the potential locations. And I think that your suggestion about the visitor center here as a California Welcome Center is probably a great one.
Yeah, I just think the opportunity to connect people to Lake Tahoe here in Auburn before they actually connect physically to Lake Tahoe on their travels is just an opportunity we shouldn't miss. And so I would, my perspective would be something in Tahoe City, something in Kings Beach, and then the 3rd location here in Auburn at the Visitors Bureau. Thank you.
Thanks.
Wonderful presentation, and I really want to thank, I see Ron here today, I want to thank you and the board for all the work you've done on bringing these recommendations forward. I think they're stellar. I'm particularly pleased to see some work on repairing existing infrastructure, because I think that's going to be really critical moving forward. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no more board comments, any members of the public wish to address the board on this item, here or up in Tahoe? And seeing the empty chair, I will take that as a no. We'll bring it back to the board. Yeah, I've got a special button for when you sit down here. We're being asked to approve the North Lake Tahoe TOT infrastructure account expenditures for 15-16. What's the pleasure of the board?
So moved.
Motion by Montgomery, second Wygant. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Thank you very much. We go ahead and move on to our final agendized public item for the day, and this is in recognition of Allison Carlos and her many years of service to Placer County. Holly, if you would, please.
Thank you very much. Before you today, I believe it's customary for the person being on.
Oh, absolutely. Got dragged around. Can't hide out in the back.
Thank you, Allison. Thank you. So before you today is a commendation for Allison Carlos. Allison has had 25 years of public service with Placer County, and during that time, she's demonstrated an incredible work ethic, integrity, as well as persistence. Some might call it doggedness, but we call it persistence and determination, and it has served her and the county well through the years. Allison has always taken her responsibilities and her work very, very seriously. She has handled her assignments with grace. She has always been willing to extend a hand as Placer County has gone through many challenges during her time and has helped fill the gaps as our staffing changes and as new skill sets and strengths are needed. She has been instrumental in mentoring and training other staff, lends a listening ear, and all of that is very much appreciated. And to coin an earlier phrase, if the measure of a man is what happens when people aren't looking, and I know I kind of didn't get that exactly right, then it's also true with a woman. And with that, I would like to turn it back to the board, and I know Supervisor Montgomery wanted to read this commendation.
Thank you, Holly. And Allison, I want you to know that while I'm actually reading this, Holly and I were trying to figure out how we could alternate paragraphs or whereases here, because this is really coming not just from us as the board, but frankly, your fellow employees and workers at Placer County who have had such a delightful opportunity to work with you over the years and miss you already, even though you're still here. And before I read this, I just want to say one of the things that I have truly appreciated is your work on the Oversight Board and the wrap-up of the former redevelopment agencies. You've been incredibly informative and graceful in your dealings with all the different agencies and entities who have vested interests in how that process rolls out, as well as the community. And that's just been great to see, because it's made what could have been a very contentious process very simple. And from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you. So now I will get to the whereases. March 10, 2015, in the matter of a commendation honoring Allison Carlos for 25 years of dedicated service to Placer County, including over 12 years as a principal management analyst of the County Executive Office. Whereas Allison Carlos began employment with Placer County on April 21, 1990, as an environmental health specialist for the Placer County Health and Human Services Environmental Health Division, and whereas Allison promoted over her career with Health and Human Services to becoming supervising environmental health specialist, providing thoughtful and insightful leadership, and whereas as a result of her effective performance, Allison was promoted to principal management analyst at the County Executive Office, focusing on land development and legislation, ultimately assuming responsibilities for the Placer County successor agency, and whereas Allison's commitment to and passion for public service was evident in all aspects of her career, and whereas Allison's keen sense of duty and responsibility was apparent and served as a role model for those called to public service, and whereas in recent years Allison served as a mentor, installing in her colleagues both a strong work ethic and the need for balance between work and personal life, and whereas Allison can be seen from the shores of Lake Natomas as an accomplished rower and as a painter, her talent can be seen in galleries throughout the region, and whereas throughout her personal life, Allison has never stopped taking on new challenges, and she has expressed goals of becoming a writer, and whereas Allison's commitment to community service will carry her down new paths where others will benefit from her dedication and creativity. Now, therefore, let it be known that the Placer County Board of Supervisors congratulates Allison Carlos on her retirement with sincere thanks for over 24 years of dedicated service to the County of Placer, its employees and constituents, and offers best of wishes for a long and healthy retirement. Congratulations, Allison.
Very briefly, I thank you for this. It's very humbling. I've been to many presentations in this chamber for people who are exceptional county employees, and it's, like I said, humbling to be included in that category of folks. 25 years is a long time, and Placer County has been an exceptional place to work. Your boards over time have been exceptional to work for. The employees have been an absolute delight to work with, and I've made many friends here for a lifetime. If there's a way to educate somebody about public service, this county has educated me on public service, and it has so much to do with the watching of how each of you board members, your predecessors, have worked diligently on behalf of the Placer County citizens, and it's extraordinary to watch people like Robert Wygant, Supervisor Wygant, who's done that for over 25 years. I remember first time I met you on the Planning Commission, I thought, wow, what an exceptional leader. Exceptional leader.
That too.
You know, if I'm going to be a writer, I better get that right. So I want to thank you. One last thing I will say is you can never be part of a family like Placer County for 25 years and not have that spill over to your personal life. And I attribute, I think I was telling Holly Heinzen, I attribute so much of my personal life success to what I have garnered out of Placer County and mined from being here for so long. And that includes the raising of my son, my marriage, and so forth. Lastly, I want to thank Holly Heinzen, who has been nothing but supportful of me and an excellent employee herself at the county, and she's been delightful, and of course our county executive officers. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Allison, before you go away, a couple supervisors want to add. Supervisor Holmes?
Allison, thank you for your service. Your availability to me was very critical to when I try to go through some of these county issues as I walk back in the back halls and sit down and shut the door. You helped me clarify what's going on with the issue, and I've always appreciated that. And we will miss you here. I will miss you here. So congratulations, and I wish you well in your future. Thank you.
Supervisor Wygant.
Allison, you're thinking back a whole career today, but on the Planning Commission, my first recollection is you made some presentation with a biology stint to it. It was probably one of those intensely controversial Granite Bay projects where we were debating something like how far the trail should be away from a stream as compared to somebody's backyard. But you did a great job in that presentation, and then interestingly, you ended up wearing a lot of different hats here as the county, as we both stuck around for a long period of time, and just want to thank you for all of your years of service and the great dedication you brought to the county and the attitude with which you did your work. You're always a great resource and somebody that could be trusted, and you could have those discussions that were beyond just the superficial element of the topic itself and really get into the meat of it. And you kept your particular ethics and your opinion, even though we might disagree sometimes, but it's been a great pleasure, and I wish you well, and good luck with your art, including now your writing. And I know your son is a medical doctor, and so success with all of that.
Thank you.
And Mr. Bosch.
Thank you, Board, for this recognition of Allison. I just want to add my congratulations and thanks. Allison, you've really served as an extraordinary role model for those who are really dedicated to public service, and I want to acknowledge and thank you for that. And rest assured that you've really left a lasting imprint on Placer County, and it's a better place because of your contributions. So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you again, Allison. And that concludes the public agendized items. County Council will now take us into closed session.
The board will now adjourn to closed session for a conference with legal counsel on two related pieces of existing litigation, Auburn Highway 49 Corridor Association and City of Auburn. The board will then adjourn as the Board of Supervisors and convene as the Placer County In-Home Supportive Services Public Authority for a conference with their labor negotiation team.
Great, thank you very much.
The board has returned from closed session where they discussed the closed session items listed on page 4 of the agenda. On the conference with legal counsel, the board gave direction to counsel on two related items of litigation. The board then adjourned as the Board of Supervisors and convened as the Placer County In-Home Supportive Services Public Authority, heard a report from the labor negotiation team, and gave direction to their labor negotiators. That concludes the closed session report.
And that concludes the items on our agenda for March 10th, and so we are adjourned.